I was looking for a 50 amp generator inlet box. I scoured the entire internet looking for a comparison of 3 boxes that I was interested in, and I couldn't find it. So today I'm making the video that I wish I had found. In front of me I have 3 boxes I was looking at. The Reliance PB50, the Reliance PBN50, and the GE T050N. I couldn't find a direct comparison with the products right in front of me. Today, I've got them for you, and if this sounds something like you're interested in, let's watch on. All right, let's get into it. I couldn't find a video that showed these 3 boxes and a direct comparison with them, let alone show a comparison with 6'3" gauge wire, which is pretty heavy stuff. So we'll show you that in a minute, but let me go over some pros and cons of each of these boxes, and ultimately you can decide if you can live with their shortcomings, and then I'll get to the point where I show you which one I actually selected. Let's start with the smallest box. These 2 boxes are, roughly $70, a little under 70. They all can be purchased on Amazon. I can provide links to these 3 products. If you do select to buy one of them using those links, I get a small return on that money at no cost to you. So it's kind of nice and kind of fun to see that little teeny paycheck come every now and again, especially when you're retired. Let's start off with Reliance. It's an all metal box, and you can see right away it's pretty shallow. And when you got 6'3" Romex heavy gauge wire, it makes this interior really, really tight. Reliance addressed that by making this spacer to pull the outlet, the receptacle, outward and give you ultimately a little bit more room inside. That didn't work out too good, and I'll show you that in just a minute. The other thing is that I was concerned with was when you got this large 50 amp cable, mine's 75 feet long, it's a beast. It is super thick, it's not bendable, and it's super heavy. And when I was going to mount this on the wall, I was concerned with the stress that cable is going to place upon this box, in so much as I was actually thinking I would need some type of a support to lift that cable up. Just an extra piece of junk I didn't want to have to deal with. Access to the interior is pretty straightforward. It has one small set screw on the front, which enables you to slide this off. The ground wire is pre-connected inside. Now, this is going to reveal the severe shortcoming, and you will see negative reviews on this box because of this. By pushing this outlet or the receptacle outwards, you'll notice that it completely occludes the hex on both conductors. All right, you have access to this one, but these 2 up here are virtually inaccessible unless you have either one of 2 things: an angled or universal hex key, or you elect to do what I was thinking of doing, which is unscrew these screws and remove that receptacle and twist it around. More than that, you'll notice that you're still going to have to fight those wires internally. And I know that some people have tried to mount these, have had a real difficult time, and by the time you get those wires, pushed down inside, you got a real tight fit. It can work. It's a neat, small, compact, well-built box. I don't see any problem with the receptacle itself. It has the hex screws on the inside, so it's not like the old flatheads that you seem to want to strip out. But that's the Reliance PB50. Let's go to the GE. Now, like Reliance, it's also made in the USA, so I figured with a GE product, it's got to be the best. And of course, at a little north of $150, I figured, well, if nothing else, it's overpriced, but I was hoping that money would buy you a good design and ultimate quality. Now, it is, as you can see, a beast. It's a lot taller, but that comes with a waste of space, in my opinion, inside, and I'm going to show you why. This is all metal, First of all, you'll notice the gap in the bottom. For those people who are always worried about bees, wasps, spiders, and etc. getting in, this port here is going to constantly leave you a spot for a haven of bees and wasps and such. There is apparently a 3D printed block that somebody's made a pretty cool thing on eBay, and you can put that in there. But again, it's an extra expense, an extra piece of junk I've got to have lying around. But let's talk about the actual interior. This advantage I thought was good, and that is it has this downward inlet. And I thought that would be a great strain relief because you can come in here and it's kind of a compromise. You can see your receptacle, so the orientation is easy, and you know, it's an ample enough space in here, and it's downward, so it's going to take all the stress off. Now, I'll show you in a minute that with that cable hooked up in there, you can't close the box all the way. So it sits about like that. It's not a big deal, but for the people who thought this was a full in-use box where you could close the cover and lock it, unless you have a smaller gauge cable, it's not going to be possible. Our cable that we have, way too thick and not flexible enough to let that cover completely close. Now, here's the problem. This is kind of a design flaw, I would say. Number one is people have stripped these small sheet metal screws. They're basically a self-tapping screw, but they strip out super easily because you're going into relatively thin gauge steel here. So any of these screws that you decide to wrench down, you're going to strip out pretty easily. And some of people have actually purchased this and found that the screws are stripped out upon arrival. But this one's new. It will be returned, but I'm going to show you, these are all, of course, steel knockouts, and they have plenty of them around. But once you take these two screws off the bottom, the top is held in with two embossed nubs that act as a guide, and that holds this angled steel plate into the frame up top. Where that became a problem is you'll notice that the side profile of this angle by design acts as a choke. And I don't quite understand the sacrifice with all this space inside. You know, they make this so awkward that even between my son-in-law and myself, as we try to push this thing in here, monster that cable, wiggle this thing around, get it seated, and then push that big bundle of 6'3" wire down flat. If you notice in here, there's not even a ½ inch at which those wires have to pass through, which means that's fine as long as they're laying completely flat. You got to have them all separated, lying completely flat, and have a nice bend in here, or else what happens is this gets pushed so hard it rides up and over those nubs, and next thing you know, you've got this plate floating in space, and now it won't lay flat. More so, your cover won't drop down. So this drove me crazy, and that, along with the size of real estate it takes up on your wall, I have plenty of real estate, but it's just, for what purpose? You've got literally a box that's twice as big as you really need, and you're not gaining really any advantage to this other than that nice angle. Okay, the receptacle itself is touted to be the best, which I wouldn't disagree with. It's an all metal flange Leviton held in with 4 screws. You know, it's got the hex connectors on the back. No complaints on that. It's obviously a high quality receptacle, which was really important to me. I didn't want to get a cheap Chinese receptacle when you're powering your entire house through a single 50 amp plug with a 75-foot cord and a 13,000 watt generator. It seemed to me like if you're going to chintz out right in here, you kind of defeated the purpose with all that horsepower upstream. Let's get to the third choice, and you're going to kind of guess right now which one I end up choosing. This is the Reliance PBN50. It's one of their newer boxes, and they kind of went to school on all the complaints. Number one is, yes, it's plastic. They've also had in the past some problems with their plastic fading. They had a group of them that was bad plastic, so they switched vendors, and now they've got a product that's been in service for years now, and they don't have a yellowing problem. That said, if that really bothered you, you can always coat it or you can paint it, and I'm sure it'd be just fine. Let's talk about the design. Number one is, it's an ample box. They told me it's 100 inches inside. And by the way, Reliance has a great tech support system. They answer the phone right away, and they gave me great technical information on it. So that was a pleasure. The box itself is plastic. It has a downward plug. So one of the things is you'll notice that it looks nice on the wall. You don't see an outlet. The outlet is covered. The downside is the outlet's on the bottom, and it's difficult. You can't bend down and see the orientation. Most people say it's no big deal. You just mark an index of where that plug needs to be inserted, and you can do it as a blind stick every time. The actual receptacle you can see inside, it's still good quality. It is a plastic face held in with 3 screws. Time will tell, but one of the things that appealed to me about this one is, since it's down facing, it takes all the stress off that plug. It's just simply holding the weight, which will be no problem at all. And I'm going to mount it probably at waist height or a little bit more above ground, and it should be pretty easy to see under. The other thing that could be a shortcoming from some people's point of view is these are convertible 1/2 inch knockouts that can be knocked out to 3/4 inch. And they're actually a plug that you can actually reuse, which is pretty nice, and I'll show you why in a second. Once you take these long screws out, they kind of have the function of holding not only the cover in place, but also the bottom panel. And that lies, I think, the biggest advantage of this box. The cover comes off, you have nothing attached inside. Super easy. Because it's plastic, the case is not grounded, so you don't have to deal with that. This lower panel slides right out, and you've got a real easy way to mount this on the wall. It's super light, a joy compared to this beast, trying to get it lined up on the wall. So the knockouts are interesting. They got a knockout on each side, and they literally just pop out. All right, but what's interesting is it's grooved inside. It's got a relief that it can be popped back in. As a precaution, I took a little drop of crazy glue on the side ports to make sure they're glued in, they don't come out. If that's a 1/2 inch, by the way. If you need to go to 3/4 inch, you can do a couple things. Now, some people gripe about this, but I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. Some people got smart and just said, I'm just going to take a 3/4 inch PVC, support it under here with some wood, and then give it a good hard smack, and it'll bust that ring right out. Reliance just tells you just to take needle nose or a screwdriver and bang that out. Haven't tried it yet, but I doubt there's going to be any issue whatsoever. The receptacle itself, not really sure where it's actually made, but it's UL listed and it's got hex. These are brass, and inside I have no doubt this is brass. It's not coated, it's not aluminum, so I don't have any doubt that this is a high quality receptacle, and it'll last just fine. So with this particular design, once that's on the wall and I've got my 6.3 connected, it's going to be pretty much a no-brainer to slip that in, and the 6.3 is going to be passed right through and shouldn't be any problem at all. Let's walk over to my side here and we'll show you what I mean by dealing with this 6.3 wire, and something to plan ahead for. Aesthetics are one thing. When you're looking at the back of your wall here, obviously you don't want to have a beast unless that beast is functional. I'm perfectly okay with that. But let's start with the ultimate choice that I've used, which is this box right here. I'll show you right away, and you'll see that even with the 1/2 inch and without a bushing, I'm going to obviously put a clamp bushing in here, and I'll punch it out to 3/4 because I have the slip-in clamp bushing, and it's a nice fit for here. But look at the difference here. You've got all that room to work with, and it's going to be easy. Obviously, I'm trying to bend all 3 of them at once here, but I'll give you an idea that it's going to be easy to bend these around. And obviously what I'll do is put a coil in here and point them downward. But you get the idea that it's an easy box to work with. And don't forget, all that can be done with this removed. So how much better can it be to work out here and have perfect access? So I'm actually anxious to get going on that because the other box, this GE, did not work out at all. And let me show you why. To make it easier, we took the cover off to get it out of our way, because you got to bend down, stoop down, and make sure you don't crack your noggin with these sharp edges here. And in addition, I removed the ground wire to get this out of our way too, because if nothing else, it's going to dangle around and scratch everything as you're trying to work with it. But you're going to get the idea right here. Once you clamp this in, all right, and your box stays there, you've got to bend the wires straight up, okay? And they've got to pass along the back wall of this, again, within like a 1/2 inch between this angle, and then make a complete 180-degree turn in that small space to go right back down in front of the receptacle to go into the hex screws. So you can see right there, it is a beast to deal with. And then you got to pray that you're going to get that thing mashed down there and get fed into these two nubs. And I think you can see here with another angle, the nubs I'm talking about, again, they're just pressed in from the outside. You know, for the DIYer, pun intended, you could tap those out and put some pass-through studs in there of some sort to really lock that top panel in there. But that's not the point. The point is the design that you're getting, I don't see any advantages of over. Now, last but not least, lest we sell this design completely short, I'm going to pick up that beast of a cable and I'll show you the one advantage this has over the others. All right, here it is, the beast. Now, I got smart. It's a nice hot spring day here, about 80 degrees. I put that cable out in the sun to make it nice and pliable. I guarantee you, the other day when it was 60 degrees here, this thing was like a rigid piece of PVC. Absolutely no flex whatsoever. Now, I'm going to fake it here and see if I don't bust my knuckles or chop my finger off, but I'm going to pretend like I connect this, and the point is I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's connected. When you don't have this thing indexed, you got to really fight with it if you don't know right off the bat where that grounding plate is. There we go. Okay. Obviously, if that's blind, you're going to be struggling with it. So it's nice to put an index of some sort on that. Okay, there it is. This is the point I wanted to show you. This is a long 75-foot, 50 amp, and I'm going to try to close this again. Okay, now, because it's hot and I'm able to squish this down, this actually closes. It's also laying flat. The other day when I had this mounted, I'm going to let go of this and you can see it pushes itself back out. And when it was cold, it was out to about here. Just food for thought. I also think that when it was connected, it put an undue amount of stress. Oh, well, here's one issue. There. That just gave it a little bit of cheat room. The internal panel, since I don't have it screwed in, it slipped down behind the internal flange and it actually let the cable sit flatter. That's why it actually went down the floor. But you can see here it's pushing itself out quite a bit, so it won't lay flat. It's pretty good. It's not a deal breaker for a lot of people. They don't care. That's plenty. A lot of these things, they stay open when you connect the generator anyway. But for the people who are in inclement weather, rain, driving wind, it's nice to have this thing protected a little bit more. Conversely, the concept here is going to be a challenge because with it on the wall, we're going to have to shoot blind down here. So that's when I'm going to get in here, and once it's mounted, I'm going to find out exactly in which orientation this plug needs to go in to start. And then once it's there, I'll push in and twist. And you can see right here, there's no stress at all. No stress on the cord, no stress on the wall, the mounts, or the receptacle. So that's my choice, and those are the reasons for it. Again, you've got the Reliance PBN50. You can get them direct from resellers. You can get it from Amazon. Again, I'll put the links below. It does come with a warranty. I don't remember what it is. I think it was a 5-year warranty, if I'm not mistaken. No big deal, obviously. And it was about I want to say $68. So there you have it. I'll get to this project and get it wrapped up, patch little holes. So hope that provided some use to you. I wish I had it, but now you do. And thanks for watching and have a great day.